Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. A woman at the center of the Duke University lacrosse scandal says she lied when she accused 3 players of raping her in 2006. WRAL Investigates Sarah Krueger is here to talk about this case. Sarah, thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And this was, of course, a really, really intense case when this was going on back in 2006. How did this admission come out now?
Yeah, finally, almost 20 years in the making. So it came out in a podcast interview with a woman named Caterina Di Pasquale. She has a podcast / talk show called Let's Talk with Cat. And I talked with Caterina. She said that she wrote Crystal Mangum a letter asking if she wanted to be on her show. Mangum wrote back and said yes. And then in a bit of an unexpected twist, she told Caterina in that letter that it was on her heart to apologize publicly for her false accusations. So
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong. I hope that they can forgive me, and I want them to know that I love them and they didn't deserve that, and I hope they can forgive me. I hope that they can heal and trust God and know that God loves them and that they didn't deserve that.
Caterina went to prison to interview Crystal Mangum because Mangum is incarcerated currently for something totally unrelated, for murdering her boyfriend. And it sounded like she had really been marinating on this whole situation and felt guilty, felt remorseful, wanted to get this off her chest. And she said she betrayed the trust of a lot of people, and that was wrong.
Okay, and in that conversation, did she explain why now she decided it was time to confess?
Yeah, so the interview with Caterina Di Pasquale is about 11 minutes long, and she talks a lot about her faith, her religion. That's something that came up throughout, how she has spent a lot of time in prison reading the Bible, and it seems that that is really what prompted her to make this public statement. And in addition to admitting that she lied, she said she hopes the men can forgive her, and she hopes that they can heal, and she again alluded many times to God and to Jesus and to the Bible, and it seemed to me that that was all related and all a part of her journey.
Okay, and so let's go back to 2006, 18 years ago at this point. What happened back then that led to this very long, winding trail of accusation and trial and just so many different steps that went on from there?
Yeah. So I think, people who were in this area or who were of a certain age by 2006, this is almost one of those cases that needs no introduction. But for people who weren't, just to give a quick backstory. So Mangum was hired. She was an exotic dancer, and she was hired to work at a party held at an off-campus house right off of Duke's East Campus near downtown Durham. And that was a party with Duke lacrosse players. So it was after that party, she came forward. She falsely accused some of the players of raping her there. And this just became an absolutely massive national story. It put Duke and Durham in the spotlight. It really strained relations in the city and just had such a huge, resounding impact.
And what were some of those repercussions that her accusations had?
The 3 players, they were charged with rape because of those false allegations. And there was just such a domino effect as all of this case started to unravel. The Durham County District Attorney at the time, who was Mike Nifong, he was ultimately disbarred for his handling of this case.
Accuser Crystal Mangum's story kept changing and eventually unraveled. DNA tests confirmed there was no rape. But not before District Attorney Mike Nifong publicly convicted the trio.
I am not going to allow Durham's view in the mind of the world to be a bunch of lacrosse players from Duke raping a black girl in Durham.
We learned that you simply can't take the word of a prosecutor or a police officer and simply believe it.
And Roy Cooper, who of course is now governor, he was state attorney general at the time. He got involved.
As attorney general, it was important for me to take that case from the local prosecutor, do an investigation to find the real truth. It is why I dismissed the charges and took the extra step to declare those players innocent of those alleged crimes. That's why I did that.
All of that was after just a really lengthy, public outcry and just a lot of people really siding with Mangum, including many people at Duke University, really turning against those lacrosse players and not standing up for them. So, even though this case may be resolved, quote unquote, in different ways, this whole ordeal certainly has still left a bruise in many places that is not easily taken away.
Okay, let's take a quick break right there and we'll be right back. Sarah, before the break, you mentioned that Crystal Mangum is in prison right now because she was convicted of murdering her boyfriend. So what has been going on with Crystal Mangum? I mean, that obviously being a crucial thing that happened to her in the last 15 years, but what's been going on with her?
So she has had a number of run-ins with the law, and most notably, of course, that one you mentioned in 2011, she was arrested and then she was convicted in 2013 for murdering her boyfriend. So she has been in prison since that time.
And do we know what the men who she accused are doing now? And have they had any kind of statement, or has Duke had any kind of statement since this admission came out?
Mm-hmm. So as far as Duke, they told me they're not going to be commenting on this latest revelation. As far as the men and what they're doing now, I am not entirely sure. They've stayed pretty out of the spotlight as all of this has developed. And I did try to reach out to them for this story to get their perspective. And from what I found, it seems that they are working in the business world, in finance, in law. And so far, I have not heard back from them. And, I can imagine any number of reasons that may be, but quite possibly just they want to leave all of this far, far behind them.
And when is Mangum set to be released after her, time served for her murder charge?
She is currently set to be released early 2026, February 2026, which since we're coming up on the end of 2024 now, that's just a little bit over a year from now that she should be out.
Any other just parting thoughts as you've been covering all of this in the last week?
Yeah, I think, this is a case that for those of us who live in Durham, for people who lived in this area at the time or have any connection to Durham or to the university, it just remains such a prevalent case, even though, so much of it has been dismissed, as I mentioned. And, there were settlements with Duke University, with the city of Durham, that those lacrosse players at the time got. I mean, it just remains something that I don't think anyone really will ever forget about. And so to have this, additional development, the fact that we're still having developments in this case 18 years later, just shows really the impact that it had and continues to have in some ways on our communities.
Okay, thanks so much, Sarah.
Okay, thanks
and
so much,
you for
Sarah.
listening to the WRAL Daily Download.
Another
great way to get WRAL News is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.